Hello and welcome to this RedMonk conversation. My name is Kate Holterhoff, Senior Analyst at RedMonk, and with me today is Sharat Chander, Senior Director of Java Product Management and Developer Engagement at Oracle. Sharat, thanks so much for joining me on the Monkcast.
I appreciate being here. I love the Monkcast. It's one of the things that I regularly listen to. So you already have a listener in front of you.
That's amazing. I love to hear that because sometimes it does feel like I'm speaking into the void, but it's they're the kind of conversations that I like to listen to. So I suspect I'm not the only one.
You betcha.
So today we're going to be talking about a very exciting anniversary, and that is Java at 30. And so I can't think of a better person to talk to about this than Shar. So let's begin with your background here. Talk to me about your long tenure around the Java community and why it's so special. Yeah.
It's amazing that we were even saying 30 years of Java. You don't think you sometimes reach these milestones until it happens, and here we are in 2025. It's an important and significant milestone. I oftentimes pinch myself to think that we've reached this plateau, but we still have many more years to go and to keep rising. And it's uh, it's 30 years young, as I call it. It's not 30 years old. And we can get into some of that, but I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I may not have been there at the onset back in 1995. My journey with Java didn't start until I actually formally accepted to join Sun, and I still remember the date, which was December 8th of 2000. So Sun was already many years into investing in Java and just building it out as something that would touch every part of our globe and our industry. And to see how much it had already come in those 4.5 years before I came on board was sort of like, uh, it's like looking at a car price. It's sticker shock, but in a good way, because of what it was already capable of doing. We talk about Java with so many prominent names. James Gosling, the father of Java, folks that worked on the original Green Team like Ed Frank and Chris Rath, and I think it's Patrick Naughton and um, Mike Sheridan. Those were some of the members of the original Green Team that made what we call Java, but there's so many other people that history needs to know. And um, I've always said that as great as Java has been as a technology in terms of a programming language, a platform, something that solves so many interesting use cases across different verticals, it's a very people first technology. I've often said Java is a people first, technology second initiative. Half of it is technology, of course, and the other half is the people, not just building it, but the community behind it. And um, I always try to reflect on the people that have brought us here, and history needs to remember these names. I mean, folks like Diana Yee Stauffer and Jeffrey Abood and Bao Fan and Jennifer Arali, they built a lot of the programs that gave Java visibility, or Wendy Yamaguma and Alvina O'Neill, who literally were the heartbeat of what was one of the most famous tech conferences on the planet, which was Java One, which you've now for a few years now brought back and hope to bring back that same level of vibrancy. But other people like Matt Thompson and Reggie Hutcherson and Ashling McReynolds, these people built out foundational programs that we often take to market and talk about with developers um, that are they're basically the heartbeat and ethos of what Java represents, which is people.
Yeah. The fact that you are able to name all of these individuals who've been so pivotal to the Java community, I mean, I think that really demonstrates that, yeah, your mantra is quite accurate, right? People first, technology second.
Yep. And trust me, they're still my peers. Many of them were my leaders. So I imprinted on their teachings, on their perspectives, which was, fundamentally, when we look at Java, why has it become so ubiquitous? Why has it touched every part of our globe? Why do we say that it runs half the world's GDP? Um, it's it's because we've made a connection with end users where they find purpose in the actual technology that they're using. And and I personally think that's a very strong signal to send to enterprises, because what ultimately we have done or many of my peers in the past have done, which I'm hoping I can continue to do in their spirit moving forward, and hopefully the next generation who sort of takes the baton up when I sort of like hopefully not age out, but like move on, is this concept of virtuous cycle. You know, business leaders want business value. We all get that. So fundamentally, they want a technology that's going to help them solve a variety of use cases or challenges. And Java has done that brilliantly because of just the thoughtful innovation that we've put into it over the last 30 years. But they also want to make sure that they have a constant pool of extremely skilled developers that can be productive in the types of tasks and solutions that you're trying to build. And that's why I say it's so important to focus on people, because if you focus on people, you're trying to understand what are their pain points, what are they scared of, what are they trying to achieve, how can they better learn, how can we accelerate the learning, how can we have more shared common knowledge, because there's only so many screencasts you can watch. There's only so many books you can read. Oftentimes, some of the best learning comes from just being immersed with your peers. And we here on the Java team historically, even now, want to ensure we have programs where we can galvanize developers, not just online, but in person, to share those best practices, share those use cases, share those experiences, because we learn better together. And, you gave a really long title description of what my role is. Yeah, it might be the formal title, but I kind of look at my role in a very simple way. I'm a Sherpa. What's the role of a Sherpa? Sherpa's job or task is to try and help someone reach their summit. We're not there to set the path. We're there to give them guidance and advice as far as what path to take. And then ultimately it's up to that person to decide what to do with that advice that they get. And if they reach their summit, that's success for me. So if developers become more empowered in what they do, it creates longevity in terms of future proofing their job. It helps their enterprise, ensuring that they know that they've hired someone that can be there for the long term to solve the problems of today, but also the problems of tomorrow. And then more importantly, this sort of shared experience around Java has been participation. Like, we care about developers. We want their input. We want their feedback. We want to know what we're doing right. That's great. Let's celebrate every once in a while, like we are here with 30 years of Java. But we also know what aren't we doing? What should we be doing? And we do so much of our development transparently. I think a lot of the industry still doesn't realize this after so many years, that in the OpenJDK community, that's where all of the engineering around Java is done in the open. I mean, developers can come and see what decisions are being made, what decisions aren't being made, when the code check-ins are happening, what features are being invested in, what's the horizon in terms of those investments, how features have evolved. And I get it, in your day job, you have so much you can do and you have to put blinders on and just stay focused on the task at hand. But if you just raise your eyes up, just even for a microsecond, to see how Java is continuing to evolve, you become more empowered in the job that you do. And, the entire organization at RedMonk has done such a great job to highlight and demonstrate the important influencing role developers have. I still have Stephen O'Grady's book, The Kingmakers. It's something I go back to and look at very often. And he'll probably be like, "You do?" I'm like, I do, because developers play such an instrumental role in the direction that companies take. And when you allow developers to participate in the very technology that they're using, they find more of a purpose in it. And that's what we want, is people to have a longevity with the technology that we continue to evolve. So we are ensuring that their career stays future-proofed, that their business understands that they're providing value. And at the end of the day, Java is going to solve a million different business problems that are inherent across the industry.
Well, Steve will be happy to hear that, I'm sure.
It's a little ragged now. I mean, I've booked
Yeah,
or
dog years.
dog-eared many of these, and I've scribbled so many notes. I might have to buy another one.
Oh, funny. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, well, And I'm always interested in the personal stories of how folks get involved in that Java community. And so you've spoken a little bit about an early Java users group in New York. I would love to hear more about that experience, including some of the frustrations that led you there.
Yeah, so, my background is in telco back in the early and mid 90s, just like every other enterprise on the planet. There were so many different programming languages trying to solve so many things, and you would have different development teams all utilizing something quite different, targeting different hardware architectures. And so, just from that nature, just from a cost perspective, there was a lot of overhead to try and keep all of those applications relevant, investing in the teams around it, and learning about Java in terms of its ubiquity to be able to solve many of those challenges across use cases, but also target a variety of hardware environments really simplified enterprise issues that we would face from a technical perspective. And so I happened to be working in New York at the time. Some of you might know Verizon. I happened to be there. Java 1, the inaugural one, had happened in 1996. I happened to be lucky enough to go and attend it, and it wasn't like your typical conference where you sit in sessions and hear a lot of keynotes and you walk away with a bunch of notes. It was literally an experience of how you could meet other people facing the same issues you were and talk about it and discuss it and share it, and the people behind it cared and wanted to hear from you. That really resonated with me. And coming back to New York, I'm like, well, so where are the other like-minded people? And it just so happened that in '97, a gentleman named Frank Greco, who history should absolutely remember his name, started the New York Java Special Interest Group, or New York Java SIG for short. Happened to see a post on a message board that there was this Java SIG going on. I happened to go to one of the meetings, and lo and behold, it wasn't just me. There were dozens of people from different industries, finance, telco, insurance, retail, coming and showing up, just trying to understand how do we better learn about this relatively new language called Java. And that that user group actually manifested into a formal program at Sun, which exploded into the Java user group program. And we now, last count we did, there's close to 340 Java user groups on every continent except Antarctica. I think that's a stretch goal. Perhaps almost every country, every major city, within probably a train ride or driving distance for most developers. And these organizations are all run by volunteers just like Frank, who find purpose in Java and want to create an experience where they can accelerate their learning through peer knowledge transfer. And so here on the Java developer relations team, we try to focus in on user groups and try to give them the knowledge in terms of what's happening in terms of innovation. How do we empower them with information? Like, say a new feature is in the works that's already visible in the OpenJDK project because we're transparent. We want to make sure that's populated and federated out to user group leaders. When is there a specific initiative coming up? How do we connect people and different user group leaders or members with others so they feel part of something larger than themselves? And so, most of my day is spent literally doing relationship management. But when you nurture relationships, you're creating something that's durable and you build trust. And so say if there's ever an issue, which rarely there is, but like if there's a difference of opinion in terms of specific direction, we can have an open and honest dialogue with our ecosystem as far as these are the reasons why we did what we did. And, you probably see it all too often. Developers love to say, why can't you just do X, Y, and Z? Oftentimes that question comes from a position of not understanding what it takes to do X, Y, and Z, or what impact it will have with existing investments. And so we love the input and feedback, but we want to be honest and transparent in terms of what we're doing and why we're doing it, but also take that input inside. And so we always are asking developers, please come and join the OpenJDK community. Please come and join some of our projects. Please read the mailing lists or become an author or a committer. And I know those are lofty things and that takes time, but there are other ways developers can participate. Go give a talk at a conference, record a podcast. Um, Perhaps they want to stand up a user group, and we've now seen a couple of new user groups just sprout up this calendar year. The newest one was in Gujarat, in India, which I'm kind of like yay, because I got a lot of relatives back home, and I'm like, wow, to see 14 user groups in my parents' home country is kind of like a sense of pride. But in Latin America, there's, I think, over 15 user groups in Latin America, at least a dozen or more so in North America. In Japan alone, there's 3. I mean, they're spread out. Germany, I think there's 20. I think Germany has the most number of Java user groups on the planet, just from a number standpoint. To see so many people finding purpose and wanting to have this collaborative spirit is a reflection of that 1997 experience that I had with Frank. So, Frank, thank you for putting me on this path.
That is such an amazing story, and I'd appreciate the statistics that you can bring here, talking about the newest ones and how many there are, and the geographic locations. Oh my goodness! Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously the most familiar with the AJUG group because it is in my hometown.
Jug Atlanta, ATL.
That's right, and of course, that one hosts the Dev Nexus conference, which I also enjoy and have spoken at, and where I typically see you, Shar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you bring up a good point. Java 1 really is a I know we've probably heard this term overused in our industry for these last 10 years, but by developers for developers. And that was literally the mantra of Java 1. And that didn't come from us. So there was a gentleman named John Urey who ran the Greenville Java user group in South Carolina. And I happened to be in Atlanta at an Atlanta Java user group, and John Urey made the drive down, and he's like, Java 1's always been a by developer for developer conference. And we're like, what a great tagline. I mean, we should have trademarked it at that point back in 2006 or 7, but he's right. So Java 1 literally is meant to be an opportunity for developers to not just meet the experts from the Java team and learn from them, but meet all of the global luminaries and peers that come and have this moment of galvanizing together. And what did that then do? Java 1 that helped launch a dozen other Java conferences around the world. You talked about Dev Nexus in Atlanta. There's Java Zone in Oslo, Norway. There's JFocus in Stockholm, Sweden. There is the Great Indian Developer Conference in Bangalore, India. We have things like JFall, run by the Netherlands Java user group, as another Java conference. And there's, GCon and Devox, and I mean, the list goes on. And that's just a reflection of just how popular Java is. And we actually think it's very complementary. So I always like to celebrate when I see other conferences that are focusing on Java, because it's just an extension of what we're doing. And what a great way to bring something at a local level to these different geographic locations.
All right. So I do want to talk a little bit about some of the history and how things have developed, because you have this phenomenal insight. You have an insider perspective, and you've just been there the whole time. I know. You're laughing.
I'm like, so it's really, I can't give enough credit or pay homage to the leaders at Sun. I mentioned a few of their names, and that all came from James himself. I typically call him the non-executive executive. All, all too often, sometimes that glass ceiling seems impenetrable. To feel as though like you have a place and a say and a voice in the things that you are working on. And James's philosophy was literally an open door approach. Everyone is able to say what they want to say. You had a format, a place and a location to do it appropriately, and that spirit and ethos has lived on in Java. Um, and my first intersection with James was back at Sun. We used to do these things called Donut Wednesdays. Aggregate all the employees in the office, have some coffee and some donuts, break the ice, have a little bit of camaraderie. And here comes James walking down the hallway, and you know, you know who your executives are. You never think you're ever going to meet him. And to see him just come up, pour a cup of coffee, start chatting, and I'm sitting there in my head going, I'm allowed to talk to you? And it was just so casual how he approached it that it taught me that there's no one person or one voice behind anything. It's everyone rallying together as a team. And, some people might get the accolades appropriately so, and some people might become the figureheads. That's great. But we all play a role. And that's why I always try to reflect and say thank you to those that have done so much or who are doing things, because this is a team effort. We've had our sort of funny situations, like Java 1. I remember there was an experience where we were showing off Java on the on a BMW, and we wanted to show it on stage, and it was showing how the infotainment was running Java behind the scenes, and the car carrier that had this car showed up to Moscone Center in San Francisco on a Sunday before doing the build out for Java 1, and there was no one there to sign for the car. I happened to be in the bellows of Java 1 with the tech team, and I thought it would be okay to drive off the carrier into Moscone, and apparently that was a no-no, but I thought I was being productive and proactive, but let's just say that didn't go over well in the short term, but the long term, at least we got the car inside. But, you look at those moments and going, hey, listen, I'm trying to feel empowered. Maybe I overstepped my bounds. I was just trying to do what was right. But I learned from it. You kind of learn where are the guardrails.
Yeah.
You kind of learn where the guardrails are.
Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness,
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, I was, one year with the Java release for the Tiger release, we had a white baby tiger on stage, on the keynote stage, and I'm sitting there going, there's a tiger on stage at a tech conference. What is going on here? Like, it's sort of like an out of body experience, but like so many people have attended Java 1. They probably have similar memories or experiences, or at other Java conferences and something unique happening. I try to collect them. I hoard memories, as I say, and I try to hoard as many of those memories as I can because it tells a story.
Yeah, that's really special. Okay, so let's talk about some noteworthy releases, because we all know some releases are more interesting than others. Java 8. I want to talk about Java 8 here. So for the release, I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb here to say that Java faced a sort of difficult period. There was a perceived lack of innovation and some other troubles. Describe to me what that period was like.
I'm glad you brought it up, and for full transparency, there's various opinions on this, and I've always been the glass is half full. Let's face it. Sun did face some business challenges. That's no secret. But for those of us in the ranks, we can't control business challenges. We can only do what we can to keep progress going. And for Java, there was still innovation happening. We also had to deal with the acquisition between Sun and Oracle. I think we landed in the right place. For me to come to a company that has such stalwart business practices and principles was probably the right place to be if we were going to go anywhere, because I think it helped put Java even in a more focused direction. And that's why for me, Java 8 was an important release that demonstrated Oracle's seriousness and commitment to Java, because many developers, anecdotally speaking, felt like Java may have been languishing between 7 and 8, and there's some technical debt you got to pay down. You got to right the ship. You have to create a sort of new North Star, and the North Star for Java is basically following the principles of the past, which is focusing on performance, security, and stability. And then, oh, by the way, ensuring that the platform continues to evolve with net new innovation. And when you do incremental innovation, which we saw with our 6-month release cadence, which we started with just after Java 9 with Java 10, is you are reducing the friction and burden of adoption. And so when you have incremental enhancements, it's easier to approach that instead of like hundreds of changes, which can sometimes just create a deer in the headlight look and might take multiple years to adopt. And so I think fundamentally, we righted the ship with 8, 9 put us on a good direction. The 6 month release cadence starting with 10, and with various projects like Amber, where we started to really focus in on reducing the ceremony and verbosity of the language, make it more readable, more writable, more maintainable. We look at projects like ZGC, which was all about reducing latency time when it comes to garbage collection, so your applications can run at scale. We look at, even we're entering this new world of AI, which I hate even saying new. AI's been there for a long time, and Java has been solving a lot of the underlying problems and challenges that AI faces. Matters like working with native libraries. We're doing that in Project Panama. Um, how do we make Java more optimized for data? That's Project Valhalla. These investments have been happening not just because of AI, but these are fundamental issues across a variety of use cases and programming types. It just so happens it works very nicely and addresses AI very well. And this just a few weeks ago, there was a very important developer conference in Belgium, in Antwerp, that's been happening yearly, called Devox. And Paul Sanders, one of the most gifted people I know on the Java team here, did a talk or a keynote on Java and AI, and he said, "Java is everywhere where AI needs to be." And I thought that was very profound, because Java truly is everywhere. You have enterprises with applications that they want to apply AI solutions too. So like, how do you use, accelerate code generation with code generation tools? How do you apply LLM models? How do you take advantage of some of these emerging libraries or frameworks for that? For example, like a LangChain for J, or even Mbabel, which is one of the new ones, which was talked about at Devox by none other than Rod Johnson, who was the creator of Spring. How does Java play within all of that? Those are areas of investment we've already been doing before AI became sort of like lingua franca in terms of the popularity of topics that we now have debates about. So I am very confident in terms of Java's next 30 years. It's all built on these past 30 years, which is thoughtful innovation. It's not about how fast you bring something to market, because that mantra of move fast and break things, in principle, yeah, I get what it means. For Java, I oftentimes say we want to move thoughtfully and build things. So introduce features thoughtfully so developers and enterprises can build things that are long-lasting and bring enterprise value. And so that's what we do. We have sort of last leader advantage, where we can see and evaluate the market and see what are the things we need to enhance and evolve around the language and the platform, and ensuring investments of the past then don't break, because enterprises want value from things that have been running in production for the last 10 years or beyond. And so that's an important sort of like balancing act we have to play, is how much newness do we bring there versus how much stableness do we maintain. Oftentimes it's called the tip and tail model, innovation on the tip and stability on the tail. And we try to keep that as much in balance as we can.
Okay, so you have convinced me that the naysayers, the folks who are, bringing up the old chestnut that Java's dead, they're clearly misguided here. This is obviously just not the case.
I love whenever I read that headline. It's not as popular as it used to be. I remember in 2010 that the entire industry and every tech journalist had written off Java and said Java is dead. And then in 2011, the same headline showed up again: Java is dead. I'm like, how can it die twice? And then, it was sort of waning. By 2012, 2013, that sort of headline started to diminish, because the best way I can put it is the the way you change perception is by using that mantra of cutting wood and carrying water. Keep doing what you're doing it consistently, doing it transparently, doing it authentically will then prove that you are true to what you're trying to accomplish, especially around Java. And I think we've turned the tide a few years ago. Every once in a while, you might jump on to Reddit, and there might be a crazy sort of, challenging confrontation, meant to be confrontational, that Java is dead. I'm like, I try to view it as everyone has the right to express their opinion, but for sure, Java is alive and vibrant. And um, with an ecosystem of over 10 million developers, some say it's 14 million developers. I'm sorry, but when you're 8 digits, that's huge. When you talk about tens of thousands of companies that are running applications across every vertical at scale every day utilizing Java, that's important. The fact that we have so many user groups with so many members, I think close to, as I said, 340 user groups, that's almost 700,000 developers that are part of that program. The heartbeat of Java is alive. I love this past Java 1 that we just did in 2025, where we had Netflix on stage, how they literally demonstrated how important Java is to run Netflix at scale with so many, instances, and the pace of streams that are happening. The fact that Java is enabling that sends a signal, and I think it's important sometimes to give an anchor name so it becomes more real. Because listen, everyday consumers don't see Java, but it powers our banking system and our trading systems. It powers flight control systems. It powers e-commerce systems. It powers social media platforms. Things like Netflix, as I mentioned, things like Uber, things like LinkedIn. These are all important organizations that are using Java to help them solve their business challenges. I love back in the mid 2000s where we even talked about how Java helped land the Mars rover. That's an important sort of like milestone experience where not only do consumers understand the importance of Java, but developers themselves see it and feel it and understand Java can do some really big things.
Okay. You have 100% convinced me. We talked about the community. We've talked about the technical innovations. What I'm interested in hearing now is, what is the lasting legacy going to be? You've mentioned AI briefly. You've mentioned Valhalla. You know, we can keep this as hand wavy as you choose, but I guess I'm just interested in the long view. I think you did say, Java for the next 30 years. Yeah, what is that going to look like?
Yeah. So from a technical perspective, from the broadness of it, it's adapt and evolve. And that's what Java has done so brilliantly for 30 years, is to adapt and evolve to a ever accelerating, changing technology landscape. And we do that thoughtfully. And I think that's really going to be the next 30 years of Java, is adapting and evolving thoughtfully. Um, from the other side of the coin, it's people first. I don't think that's ever going to go away. When you create such an important thread into the ethos of something like Java that requires and needs the input and participation of your community, uh, it will be very challenging to erode that. Now, that's for us to decide. We can either choose to keep investing in it, which I believe we are, and we will continue to do that. But that's got to be an inherent investment area for the future: is continue to invest in the ecosystem, in the community, give people purpose, create that virtuous cycle so businesses know there will be very skilled Java developers to help them solve the business problems of today, but the business problems of tomorrow.
I think that's a great place for us to wrap up. So, for folks who would like to hear more about Java at 30, perhaps your own social media musings, Shar, where would you direct them?
The best place to go is to just turn their attention to dev.java. That is our destination for all things Java in terms of learning, in terms of community programs. I would like to give a plug to learn.java. So part of inspiring your existing ecosystem is to also bring in the next generation. And we understand there's a whole new generation of developers that are out there that can absolutely find value in Java. So we've now also launched learn.java. So plug out to my peers, Heather Stevens and Crystal Sheldon, who are leading that endeavor. So we also want, the developers who are just cutting their teeth on Java to come and learn. So please point your attentions there. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, we have an official presence of Java on LinkedIn. Please follow us there. But Kate, 10 million developers, everyone's going to have a different modality. And so we have dev.java, we have learn.java, we have Java on X, we have Java on LinkedIn, we have Java on YouTube, we have Java in places that try to hit as many of the popular ways that developers try to learn and stay engaged on the technology.
I have noticed that as well. It is sprawling. It is robust. You can do it in person at the jugs, or you can find it all
Do it
online.
online.
So
Yep.
amazing. Okay. Well, that certainly helped me to get a better understanding of this. I have really enjoyed speaking with you today. Again, my name is Kate Holterhoff, Senior Analyst at RedMonk. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and review the Monkcast on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching us on RedMonk's YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, and engage with us in the comments.
Thank you, Kate.